Hey guys, it's Adrian. Welcome back to my channel. Today is the last day of the Caraval read-along. So today I'm here to wrap everything up, and boy oh boy do I have a lot to say. If you have entered the giveaway, stay tuned because at the end of this video I'll be telling you who won. Before we get started, spoilers. Spoilers. If you have not read this book, do not watch this video. Just go away, because it will ruin everything, and that would be sad, and then you would hate me, you would unsubscribe, and I would have no subscribers left, and the world would be terrible. So just go. Shoo shoo. Goodbye. For those of you who have read the book, let's start talking, because I have so much to say. So much to say. I was talking to Kim about this book when I finished it, and I said, I don't even know how I feel about this book. I don't even know how I feel. And she just said, well, that seems to be the theme of this book. I don't even know. Like every other video, let's start off by talking about the plot. Oh my goodness, the deaths. I had heart palpitations. I think I may have died along with some of these characters and come back to life with them. I don't know. There's just yeah. What I loved the most about the deaths in this book is that I was just, carrying along, doing my thing, reading my book, and boom! Somebody was dead. What the heck? First Scarlet, and Julian, and Tella, and Julian again, and my heart. It was just too much. But it was fantastic. Fantastic. Again, what I love the most about the plot of this book is the ability to keep your attention. The suspense was incredible, and you're always second guessing. I can't even tell you how many times I had theories. I think I had about 5 different theories going on at one specific point, and I just couldn't decide which one was right, and none of them were. I was wrong on all counts. I was wrong. Don't tell my husband, but I actually like being wrong sometimes. There are so many little plot elements that I could highlight for you and tell you that I loved, but this video again would be like 13 hours long because there's just so much happened in the last 100 pages of this book. But I want to talk to you about a few that really stood out, that I really loved, that really got me. At the end of the book, when Scarlet finally found Tella, I could not decide who was insane. First I thought that Scarlet was going crazy, that Legend was behind all of this just to make Scarlet go a little nuts. Then I thought that Tella was crazy, and then I thought that Scarlet was crazy again because maybe she just needed to learn how to have a little bit of backbone. So this was all kind of a way to just get her to grow up a little bit. And then I thought Tella was crazy, and then I thought they were both crazy, and then the book ended and I was convinced that I was crazy. I think I lost my sanity because my brain was just going all craziness. And then we have this Daniel character that Tella supposedly fell in love with. I was half expecting it to be Dante. I think Dante would have been a really good one. I think that it would have been harder to explain, but it would have been the extra twist that even made it a little even better. Speaking of Dante, I was already kind of expecting him not to actually be dead. It would have kind of been a disappointment to his character. But wait a minute, he's only a part of the game. He's a player just to move things along, and he actually did and feel his pain and death, but comes back to life at the end of the game, and that can happen in any game. What the heck? And then the invitation for Tella's so-called funeral, when Scarlet brings it up to Tella and she says, look, this was an invitation to your funeral, and it was actually an invitation to a party. It actually turned out to be an invitation to a party. Oh, okay. And then when everybody turned out to be dead, and I was absolutely devastated, I sort of expected them to come back to life because Scarlet's dad had mentioned something about not being able to be harmed because of part of the game. So it turned out definitely different than I expected it to be, but I already thought maybe this is all just an illusion. Maybe it's not real. It was definitely real, so there you go again. But it's when I kind of suspected it, and I was really glad for it because I was just like furious that everybody was dead. I wasn't even sad. I was so angry. I totally thought Casper was Legend. You got me, Stephanie Garber. You got me. And then there's Tella's whole plan. She is a genius. Genius. I totally thought that this whole thing was revenge for Scarlet's grandmother and plot against her children and her grandchildren. And then we find out that this whole thing was part of Tella's plot. What? The only thing that I will say is that though I am very happy that there was a happy ending, the emotions that I felt when everybody died were so real and so frustrating and so mixed emotion, I guess, between frustration and sadness, that it would have kind of been cool if they actually stayed dead. I know that sounds really morbid, but that would have just been a fantastic ending to a story. As far as the very ending goes of the book, the epilogue especially, I like the way that it ended. Because when I picked this book with Kim for the read-along, I did not expect it to be a duology or a series or whatever. I really thought it was going to be a standalone. And so when I found out about that halfway through the read-along, I was kind of disappointed because I didn't want to have all these open-ended questions because I had so many of them. But I felt like the book ended really well, that it explained a lot of questions and it opened some new ones. So I am satisfied enough to wait the next year for the next book. I could go on for hours. Look at all these sticky notes. There's like at least 100 in there. There are so many things that I could talk to you about, but for time's sake, let's move on to the characters. Let me start off by talking about Scarlet because I've been really hard on Scarlet. She hasn't been the most easy character for me to relate to. There's just something about her that irked me. But the turn of events in the last part of the book really added to her character development and made me see her in a different light and made me appreciate her more. One of those things is that she finally made the connection between her future and her safety. Now she's been kind of on her way. She's already been slowly discovering that her future matters too. Not just saving her sister. Yes, she wants to save her sister. Yes, she loves her sister, but her future is important. She has her own desires that she wants. And that's one of the things that I appreciated in the last part of the book. But towards the end of the book, she now has made this connection between her future and her safety. She's kind of always had this idea that if she marries the Count and goes with the Count, then she can make her and her sister safe. And Tal has been trying to tell her this the whole time. It's not only about being safe, you need to be happy too. So she's finally learning that she can be happy and be safe at the same time. I also like the fact that she sacrificed herself for Julian after her father mutilated his face. When she decided to stay with the Count so that her father would let Julian go. I thought that was really great for her character because it showed that she was a little more feisty than we thought, and she wasn't just a softie, take one for the team. Now, don't get me wrong, the take one for the team is a really great quality in a person, but I kind of was missing the backbone. And her having a backbone is what really helped me appreciate her character. Along the same lines, again, with the whole feistiness thing going on, she totally attacked the Count with a hot poker. I thought that was absolutely fantastic. And I was cheering for her, literally cheering for her when she told her dad off and she blackmailed him. But moving back to the Julian thing where she sacrificed herself for Julian, that also helped me really appreciate their romance. It felt a little more real. It felt a little more believable to me because she was willing to do something for her because she loved him or she really liked him or whatever kind of ooey gooiness we're at this point. But it made it more than just a physical thing for me. It made it a little bit more believable. I have a lot of appreciation for Talla's character. In my last video, I said that I could totally see her going mad and I could see Scarlet's concern, but I also could see that she's a stronger character than her sister gets credit for. And what I loved about the end of this book is that we saw both. We saw Tella go absolutely crazy. We didn't know that she wasn't really crazy until the very end, but we saw her go full on head over heels for Legend, willing to die for him. And then we saw Tella at the end of the story, who was totally not crazy at all, had so much faith in her sister that she was willing to jump to her death and die for her sister. And then we found out that she was into this whole game playing in order to save them from their father. So she's really a thinker. She's not as impulsive as we thought we were. She really takes the time to think about things and plan things. And another thing that we saw, especially in the epilogue, is that though Tella is strong and she is impulsive and she has this side of her that wants to take care of her sister that we now get to see more of, she's also really broken. And you can see that in the end when she's basically drunk and she doesn't really know what's going on anymore. And then of course you have a whole plot twist at the end where her mom is alive, which doesn't really surprise me, but who has her and why, and was it really Legend that gave her that little note, and what did she promise to do? And then we have Julian. Of all things I expected Julian to be, and I expected him to be a lot. I did not expect him to be Legend's brother. There is still a small tiny bit of me that really wonders if he really is Legend's brother and not Legend himself. But being Legend's brother really worked out well for his character. It explained a lot. It explained why he was pushing Scarlet away and pulling him towards her, because it was all just part of the game. He was just a player in the game. And though he was developing feelings for Scarlet, it explained his snarkiness, it explained his hiddenness, and the fact that he wasn't actually able to tell her the truth had me a little bit more appreciation for him than him just being some dirty Leire. One thing that I will say that I was really disappointed about when I found out that Julian was actually a player is that he stopped calling her Crimson. I really liked that. I thought it was kind of cute. He had a nickname for her, and then all of a sudden the game is over, so he starts calling her by her real name. I also thought, well, if he starts calling her Scarlet now, hopefully it means that everything will be real and they can work on building this romance or whatever it is that they have in a real way, so it's not based on this pretend romance that they have. And moving on to Eiko. I mentioned Eiko in my last video. I kind of expected her to be a bad guy, and that really surprised me. I'm not really surprised that I'm surprised anymore, but I expected her to kind of twist the story in a way that made things go differently, and she ended up actually being really helpful. I don't know if she'll stay helpful or if this is just another one of Stephanie Garber's way of making me totally question myself, but I could really see her and Scarlet being very good friends in the next book, so I'm interested to see how things play out. I only have one little thing to say about the Count, and that's that I wasn't really shocked that he turned up and tried to marry Scarlet. The only thing about the Count is that he just leaves me really confused. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in my issues, but I can't really form any opinions about him because I don't really know anything about him. Scarlet and Tala's father is such a jerk. I really hope he dies in the next book. Good riddance. He, though, is the only issue that I have with the character development in this part of the book. I feel like he wasn't done well enough because we get these small glimpses of him wanting to help Scarlet. He wants to save her from Legend. And we even get a tiny itsy bitsy mourning, if you even want to call it a mourning. It's not even strong enough to be mourning for Tala when she falls off the balcony or jumps off the balcony. And then he goes right back into his old abusive personality. I just feel like if you're going to show redemptive quality in a character, either do it or don't do it at all, because I was just less confused and not liking his character development at all this time around. Legends. I'm so curious about who this Legend guy is, and I'm sure there are lots of things that we don't know, we don't understand, that we'll find out in the next book. I thought that it was very fitting that he helped Tala with this game. He gets to do this whole manipulative game puzzle that he really loves, and he gets to sort of play the good guy, and I love that he did help Scarlet along the way, especially when we find out that this was a whole thing between him and Tala, that there were tests that she had to pass and all of those things. He did try to help her along the way. He made sure that Tala would actually be okay when she jumped to her death, that her sister would actually love her enough to be able to bring her back. I think that added a whole lot to his puzzle building, very confusing in a good way character, and I really liked it. As far as the writing goes, I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you and tell you that I wasn't actually paying attention too much as far as the writing goes because I was so invested in the plot. If you are interested in those little writing critiques and nidbits and nuggets, I would suggest you go check out Kim's video up here. She's really good at that, and I'm sure she's got plenty to say this time around as well. But one of the things that really did get my attention in this book is that the author used some phrases that really pulled me into the story, that made me feel like the story was deep and dark. She uses phrases like, had this been another story then, or this could have been a beautiful moment, but, and it really pulled you into the dark moment that was happening. Or when there was a beautiful moment, then it pulls you away from it and says, yeah, this isn't how the story is gonna end, guys. It's gonna go completely different. I thought it was really great. I think it added to the darker tone of the book. I do have a few issues though, and I wanna talk to you about them. I have a few smaller issues, and I have some serious possible plot holes or character development issues that I'm hoping will be resolved in the second book. But let's start off with the smaller issues. First off, when Tala tells Scarlet that she's in love with Daniel, Scarlet says, you can't be in love with him, you barely know him. But a few pages before, when Julian died, she referred to him as her Julian. Or a few pages later, she says that she has to make the choice between Tala and Julian, but she'll pick the sister over the boy that she loves. So she technically just says she loved Julian, but Tala's not allowed to love Daniel because she just met him. That seems a little bit hypocritical to me. Not that Tala actually did love Daniel, but you know what I mean. And then again with the blood, it sounds really vampire-esque and not fitting for the story at all. No. And then at the very end, when Scarlet and Julian get back together, Julian promises not to lie to Scarlet anymore, and Scarlet says, what about the rules? Julian says, I'm not really concerned about the rules. Wait, what? How are you not concerned about the rules? Wasn't this whole story about following the rules? The whole reason behind him being a player and not being able to tell Scarlet the truth is because of these rules. How can he not be concerned about them anymore? Now let's move on to the plot holes and character development issues that I found. I'm really hoping that some of you can help me with this. Maybe I just missed something and I didn't connect the dots well, or I read over it, or I've forgotten about it. Or I'm hoping that the questions that I do have that haven't been solved will be solved in the second book. There's a couple times in the book, and I don't remember the first one because I didn't really notice it until I came across the second one, where Scarlet says that she feels like there's a lesson to be learned. The one that I remember clearly is at the carousel when she was digging through the thorns. She said that there was a lesson to be learned, but she couldn't put her finger on it, and I feel like that might be a lesson that the author expected the reader to get, that Scarlet wasn't getting it, but I didn't get it. I was hoping, and I kept flipping back through my book thinking, what is this lesson possibly? What could it possibly be? But I just couldn't come up with an answer. If you have an answer, please let me know, because it's one of the things that I would really be interested in finding out. And the rest of these are major questions about character development. The first one is the Count. Now, I already mentioned him in my characters. I don't see his purpose. He feels like just a pawn to carry the story, but I felt like he should have had more to him. Why was he there? What was in it for him? Why was he working with Scarlet's father? What did they have planned? Was he evil? Was he good? I have so many questions that are still left unanswered, and I'm hoping that his character will come out more in the second book, and we'll see him and his reasoning behind everything that he's done so far, because right now he just seems like a pawn in a chess game. I just don't understand him at all, and that really disappointed me. The same thing goes for Dante's character. I expected so much more for him than him just being another player. What purpose did he have? He seemed like he would be this really key character in the beginning of the book, and then all of a sudden he was dead, but still I had hope that he would be a real key character later in the book, and he didn't turn out to be at all. So I kind of feel like he was just another pawn, maybe a pawn to help us think that maybe there'll be some kind of love triangle going on or something, but he didn't have any purpose for me. And I hate when characters don't have purpose. And lastly, I'm hoping that Scarlet and Tella's father has more of a story in the second book, like I already mentioned earlier. I just didn't believe him. He didn't come over well. I mean, in the beginning of the book I really liked him because I hated him, but he feels, again, just like a motivator just to get them off the island. And I know that there's potential there for a really complex story, especially involving Scarlet and Tella's mom. So I'm hoping that we get it. And now let's move on to the wrap-up of the book. Again, I just don't even know. I don't even know how to... Rating this book was so difficult for me because on one hand, I absolutely love this book. It was whimsical, it was creative, it was imaginary, it was plot-driven, it was character-driven, it was suspenseful. I don't think I've been this surprised by a book or this on the edge of my seat of my pants for a long time, maybe not ever, if I'm being perfectly honest, especially not with this kind of YA book. So on one hand, I think this is the best book that I have read this year, probably the best book that I have read in a long time. On the other hand, there were some major issues, especially towards the end with all of these character questions. I feel like the issues that I mentioned in the second discussion video, especially as far as the romance and the blood, I could have overlooked them, especially with the romance as the way things turned out in the book. I could have overlooked them, and in that case, this would have been a 5-star book for me, definitely. Because the issues were not big enough for me to say that this wasn't the best book that I've read so far this year. But on the other hand, the issues with the characters were so big. I had so many questions. I feel like some of these characters, because of the way things turned out at the end of the book, really fell flat. My initial instinct, because of those issues, because they closed the book just completely confused about a few things, was to give it a 4-star rating. But when I compared it to the rest of the books that I have read in the last 6 months, a 4-star rating is less than what I've given some other books. And I know this whole Goodreads rating thing, star thing, I need to find a good system. I've tried a couple different systems and I haven't been able to find one yet. But if I give it a 4-star rating, then I'm saying that it is not as good as the books that I have read in the last year or so. And it's not true, it's better. But if I give it a 5-star rating, then I'm saying that I can overlook these issues, and at this point, I just can't. But for now, I've decided that I'm gonna give it a 4.5 because it's somewhere in the middle. When the second book comes out, I'll reread this one, and I'll read the second one, and I'll revisit my rating, and I'll see how it does, because I feel like it has 5-star potential. It's just not there yet. All in all though, plot-wise at least, best book that I have read in a really long time. And now comes the part you've all been waiting for. Kim and I have been hosting for the past 2 weeks a giveaway of The Night Stalkers by Erin Morgenstern. If you missed it, too bad, it closed last night. So I'm gonna turn myself over to future me because it is currently Saturday morning and the giveaway doesn't close till tonight, but future me will tell you who the winner is of the read-along. Let's draw a winner. And the winner is Leire Martinez. I don't know if I pronounced your name wrong. I'm really sorry if I did. But I'll be contacting you by Twitter and by email so I can send you your copy of The Night Circus. Congratulations. Congratulations to whoever you are. I will be contacting you today or tomorrow to get all of your mailing information, and I will send you a copy of the book as soon as I can. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe below. Thanks for joining in on this whole Caraval journey that we were going on. It was so much fun. We really appreciate it. Thanks to all of you who participated. Thanks for watching, guys, and see you next time. Bye.